radios and all kinds of junk, of which I have a lot of it still left. So anyway, I read his book, and I went to San Francisco, and went to the lab, and I'm standing out there, and of course the fog's swirling around, and I said to myself, because I had a high school buddy that had a couple of early televisions, and I said to myself, I am going to be the guy. I'm going to be the guy that collects television, and I'm going to be the first television collector, because everybody else has been collecting radio. So in 1963, I'm standing out in front of Farnsworth Building, and I said, no one knows what this is. I'm the guy that's going to do it. So what I started doing is collecting television. And one time I had about 300 sets. I bought an apartment building just to house a collection. I had a very patient wife who just put up with this. This is, I think I'm on, well, whatever, many television shows. I had Dan Rather came out to the house, and I had Charles Osgood out. I appeared in National Enquirer as the man who had the most television. I won their contest. Actually, there was another guy who had more television where he lived than I did, but they didn't consider a prison a place to live. So anyway, but I had, and this Mike Higgins, this is really vintage video. So what I do is at some point, it got to the point where what I would do is I would go to the library and get out the phone book, and then I would take down every address of every antique shop, every TV and radio repair dealership and furniture dealerships, and I would get the maps, and I would draw dots on the map with a number, and I'd have the list, and then I'd connect the dots to figure out the fastest way through the community to call on everybody. And I did this in the western states. And then when I had my appearances and started appearing on television, people would call me. And I turned down lots of stuff. I mean, the color televisions, it's like, those are too new. Anything that was 1950 and newer, I'm going like, well, I don't think so. But at one point, I had I believe the largest library on television. I had I'd gotten every radio and television trade journal, starting from Modern Electrics, with Hugo Gernsback, and I went through. I had literally thousands and thousands and thousands of trade journals, and I went through every trade journal, sitting there and marked any article they had on television, and the rest of the magazines I would trade off. So I had lots of mechanical television stuff. I had the RCA display, some of the RCA display from the World's Fair with the iconoscope. This is my home in San Pablo. There's my wife and I that's 1981 or 2. I had the State Fair exhibit in 1987. I was a real champion of Farnsworth. I called up Farnsworth, and he really didn't want to talk to me too much about it because he'd gone on, now he's working on cold fission and that sort of thing. Before he died, I got to know his wife, Pam Farnsworth, and his son, who lived over in Point Reyes. But in the early days of collecting, it was really something, because I would go to the TV dealerships and they would just give me the stuff because they wanted to get rid of it. And I had a book with pictures of what I was looking for, and if they didn't have any early television, what I would do is they would give me the parts, and then especially what they would do is they would give me these boxes and boxes of knobs. So I had about 20,000 knobs at some point. That's why I'm asking you guys if you need any knobs, because I may have them. This is Video West. I had a lot of fun doing it. And then in 1983, I bought a Victorian house that started restoring, and all the television stuff kind of got shoved away. I had a 7-bedroom house, and there were rooms of the house that was just filled with television. And I bought an apartment building to move all the stuff into. And 2 doors down, my wife would, there would be like, years would go by before she'd even go into the building. One time she went upstairs and she goes, "Oh man, you got all that junk all." I go, "Yeah, Sandy, stay out. Come on, So eventually, then in 2007, 8, I started selling the collection, because what happened in 2003, I tried to get this television museum in San Francisco, and so over the years, my position has changed, and I've talked to Richard about this. People say, Farnsworth is the boy who invented television. No, he was the man who made television work, because I see it differently, because there were all these many scientists who made all these things that Farnsworth took from, and his own little ideas about certain things, and actually put the thing together and made it work. But to say that, I think it's very wrong to say that Vladimir Zworykin is not a very large contributor, that he visited Farnsworth and drew this whole thing out of that. That didn't happen. Zworykin was interested in electronic television well before Farnsworth with Boris Rosing and all this. So that's the bigger story, I think. But so it was, and then I started working on the sets, you know, amassing the parts, and I had maybe about, one time I think about 30, I estimate 30 or 40,000 tubes, 400 or 500 picture tubes. Let's see. Well, as far as the literature and things, it was just incredible. But the problem is now, and I've been back east in the 60s, in the 70s, I would have had, you know, a different collection.
All the pre-war sets.
All the pre-war sets. Because I was the guy that went to Radio Row in before World Trade Center.
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking for, but I didn't have any money and I had no way to get out. And the problem is I was this kid that didn't have any money, so more than half of the collection was given to me. And what would happen is a set, now the one that I brought today is a major television. It was, I think, the only one in existence. And it's an appliance store, had these televisions made by different companies, and this one here is a Teleking, and they had a different cabinet, and they sold these for maybe 2 or 3 months when television first came out in 1948, because it's Channel 1 on it. And I think it's the only one in existence. Now that one there was quite a milestone set for me, because some of you, like Roy, used to go to Marty's Mart and Electronic Mart just down from Saks on Market Street near Civic Center. And that was the place you go in where they had all this World War II surplus and just tubes and everything under the sun.
Incredible.
And in the basement, you couldn't go in, but I asked about television, and they had in the basement, underneath the staircase, this set here. And the guy goes, oh, well, I don't know what we want for it. He goes upstairs and they want $10. I'm like, $10? Oh my. And I went down and looked at it again. It was just the chassis sitting on top of the cabinet, and so I shelled out the $10. And then when I got it home, I'm looking at this thing and I go, wow, I can't find any information, because I had, you know, I had Wallace's Tell-Aids and, you know, all the writer magazines. I had every service manual you could possibly think of. Nothing mentioning major television. And then when I got a Teleking set, the chassis was identified, and then I knew where to schematic. Because before that, I was just working on this thing blind. So I'm pretty much self-taught on this. I did take some classes in electronics, but the thing with television for me was because I collected radios, and a super heterodyne, you know, that's a pretty complex circuit. Well, the television was the challenge, because that's a really complex circuit. And so that was my next step. So I went into collecting the television. This is on Mary Hart on Entertainment Tonight. And like I said, I'm also in Ripley's, and the man who had the most television is Ripley's. I appeared on the same thing with Herman Kepler. Then later on, from all these collecting of things, I actually went into a museum background, like you have. I was the curator of the Jack London Museum in Oakland. And then studied conservation. I restore art and historic objects. I actually went on to collecting other things. I collect bicycles in the 1880s and 1860s. And I collect pre-1910 automobiles. I collect California art, Western art, 19th century art. So, but the television and the radio thing is what really, really got me into running all over looking for crazy stuff. And it's amazing to be here after all these years, you know, that you guys, you know, it's great to be here, to talk to people that have a similar sort of...
Missing the same screw.
Well, it's just a synchronizing too.
Yeah, you know, I guess so, yeah, we're all, you know, but it's really great, because I get nobody, otherwise I'm just, you know, tossed on a wall or something like that. You know, there I am as I wish I was in that shape today, because that's about 30-some years ago.
Don't we all wish so?
Well, you know.
How old are you, Jerry?
66.
66.
So this is, you know, there's my wife then, of course, you know.
Yeah.
Very cool.
She
That's
still
on
looks
channel.
that way, doesn't she?
She looks pretty good, yeah, she's held up real well. But it was a crazy ride, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And I sold you probably about 6 or 7 years ago, a lot of the mechanical stuff going on eBay. I had hundreds and hundreds of things.
Oh, wow.
The iconoscope that Vladimir Zworykin made in 1925 or 26, the handmade one, that was on eBay. I had all my.
What to go for?
That went for $4,000,
Yeah.
and I had paid $2 for it. So it was a pretty.
No.
My wife used to complain that I had all this stuff, and we were storing all this stuff because I bought this house, and I would buy houses to put stuff in.
Mhm.
And so, but that all paid off. And you know, the things that I bought.
Yeah,
for
you
a nickel
sold the
were-
houses.
Yeah, I said, well, I did well on the houses, and I did well on the stuff, you know, the things that I paid a nickel and a dime and a quarter for, but, you know, I can remember selling eggs door to door, 10 cents a dozen, to buy this stuff. And you know, I was buying battery radios for 50 cents and $1, and I used to dress up in ragged clothes so I could go to these dealers and they'd feel sorry for me and sell me stuff cheap. Or they give it to me because I was this poor kid.
Yeah.
And it was a different world, and I remember I had these people going, you know, you're crazy, why are you collecting all that crap? It's just, you know, it isn't worth anything. And then of course,
Wow.
you know, they were wrong. So, but that's pretty much it. I mean, any questions about some of the crazy things? And it was, the Bay Area was just really wide open. I mean, there were TV dealers everywhere.
Oh, yeah, I'll bet.
How many sets do you have left?
I have about 10 now. I kept the Farnsworth sets, and I have the 2 major televisions. I have the first one I have, which is a little suitcase Teletone.
Your Farnsworth sets is one of them the teardrop one?
Yeah, the waterfall.
That's an amazing TV.
Yeah, I have the waterfall. I have
Tons of knobs on the front too, right?
Yeah, right. Too. It's got I forget the configurations,
Okay.
but that was one of my favorites. And I've never seen the console. Anybody ever seen the Farnsworth console? I don't think one exists.
Photographs.
I don't think one exists. What, do they have 3 models or 4 models?
Well, I remember seeing photographs of their pre-war
Yeah,
sets,
with the
you know, with all the
Art
lines
Deco
all over
and
it,
everything.
Art Deco lines on
Yeah.
it, but I don't even know if it
I
survived.
don't think that existed. Through in the 70s, and Greenfield Village,
Mhm.
they had the Jenkins prismatic system. Did you ever see that at the Greenfield Village?
Not there, but,
And they had, because I had a lot of
Saw
Jenkins
one.
stuff. I had a
Yeah.
Jenkins scanning drum,
Hmm.
a bunch of Jenkins. I had a lot of mechanical television stuff. And actually, Rob Johnson, he brought Dr. Alex Anderson's disc.
Mhm.
He brought that last time. You guys.
Oh, yeah, I remember the disc.
Yeah, that was some of the apparatus. I had like several of them.
I remember, where did I see it? It was at, I think it was at like AWA when people were doing a contest and I saw the octagonal GE scanning disc thing, really pretty looking thing.
Well, guys,
Historical.
you know, anyway, that was